Hello, and welcome back to episode 5 of my mental illness story. My name is Tanner Hines. I am an audio engineer and stand-up comedian based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. Last episode I talked about establishing my first real friendship and how I used that as sort of like the blueprint for how I wanted all my other relationships to sort of be. So if you haven't checked out that video, be sure to check it out now. This video I wanted to focus on more middle school and high school and sort of what I felt was the beginnings of where my illness sort of came from. Also last video I realized I try to wear a different band shirt each video, give you a greater idea of kind of person I am, I guess. And I realized last video you couldn't really see my shirt. It was this shirt. The Who. Today is Eagles of Death Metal. So there's that. Like I said in the last video, that friendship that I talked about then sort of came to a close. 7th or 8th grade, we started seeing less and less of each other, and just eventually stopped hanging out altogether. And this is sort of people talk about mental illness. They talk about looking for patterns of thinking, patterns of behavior to try to get ahead of your illness. And this is sort of the beginning of a pattern that I noticed in my life in terms when it comes to relationships. I meet someone, I get really close to them, and it's really intense for a long time, or a certain amount of time, and then eventually it fades away. And once that's done, it sort of ushers in a pretty lonely period till it starts over again with someone new. So this is sort of that first time happening. And so 8th grade, I wasn't really that great of a student at that point. My sister was the much better student, and that was sort of the running joke in our family. Anytime my mom would ask us how we did on a test, I'd be like, oh, Sam would get the A, and I would just be happy with like a solid B. In 8th grade, that sort of switched for me. Became a much better student, and part of that the reason was to sort of combat some of that loneliness that I started to feel after not losing this sort of friendship, at least how I wanted it to be. I sort of dove into schoolwork really hard, and that made that my main focus through the rest of that year in high school and in college and stuff. It wasn't enough to know just the answer. I had to know every answer, and started thinking, okay, what do I need to know a week from now, 2 weeks from now, a month from now? I was the kid that brought all his books home every day with him, just in case. That's good. That work ethic, it served me well. I did really well in school, and then once I got to college, school was easy, so there's no big deal, and that's good. Being a good student will help you in life, but it did come at a cost. To where a lot of people were having a good time in those days. I made a deliberate choice, not to have a good time and just focus on schoolwork, at my detriment. Because now that I'm done with school and out of college and have a job and stuff, doing well in school doesn't seem that important to me anymore. I just want to have a good time, and it's hard for me to look back on those days, high school, college, because I just didn't, really have a good time in those days, and it's sort of painful even now to where I get reminders of high school or college, or go to those places where I went to school at. Those sort of subtle reminders sort of puts me back in that sort of mindset, and reminds me of just how tough those days were sometimes. Just because I wasn't taking advantage of trying to enjoy myself. Those are like, they say that your best years, and I can't help but feel that I sort of wasted that time and opportunity, looking back on it now. So it's tough for me to do that, and I think I've always sort of had like this genetic predisposition for mental illness. It was something that runs in my family, so I sort of knew it was something I would have to deal with. But I think, making that deliberate choice, 7th, 8th grade, just to focus on school and not trying to have a good time was really sort of where all that sort of began for me, and sort of feeling sad and stuff. As a kid, everybody's working towards like the weekend. Something you don't really outgrow. Even as an adult, people plan their weekends sometimes months in advance. And growing up, I sort of dreaded the weekend because I knew I didn't have anything going on or anyone to hang out with. Like seemingly everyone else did. I did a lot with my family in those days, which is great. But people sort of get anxious on Sundays. You only have to go to work the next day. I sort of got anxious in the middle of the week, knowing the weekend was coming up and I didn't have anything to do. It's because I focused so hard on school during the week. A couple days at the end of the week, are sort of yours to do what you want with them, and just reminded me of sort of when the loneliness could creep in at that point in time for me. I think that's where a lot of my illness stems from. At least starting to feel some of that stuff full on in those sort of formative years, focusing on things that I shouldn't have been focusing on, and trying to enjoy myself more. And I just didn't. So I think that's all I wanted to talk about today in this video. I think next time we'll talk more about high school and college, and really start to talk about how I felt with my illness and what that felt like to me to be sort of have depression, and what that meant for me in those years leading up to prior to getting treatment at the end of high school. And we're talking about that in a couple weeks. If you like the video, sure to give it a thumbs up. Share the video also any way you want. Be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already to keep up to date on any further videos. Thank you again for watching. See you in a couple weeks. Thanks. Bye.